So this has been a very useful set of presentations, and I maybe start things off by complimenting Jitendra Singh or Kumar Singh in his presentation. As he summarized some very common pressures that are experienced in the consulting engineering industry. I'd just like to comment on one of them, which I think shows that how there is a linkage between lack of integrity and problems with quality. He mentioned the pressure from a senior person to manipulate data, to manipulate an invoice. And I know this happens. I experienced this kind of pressure in India when I worked there. So what this does is it means that clients no longer trust invoices, especially the man-hour type of invoice. Because they believe the employees are under pressure to falsify the hours, which leads to more lump sum projects. Some clients will only accept a lump sum bid, and some types of assignment cannot be realistically done on a lump sum basis. So that leads to cutting corners, because if you face the possibility of losing money on a project, you will cut corners perhaps. If you cut corners, you will lower the quality. So there you have a problem of integrity at the beginning, and it leads to poor quality at the end. So now let's, do we have some questions in English coming from the chat facility? And perhaps because my colleague, Richard Stump, has been so capably handling the questions, maybe Richard, you could see if you see any questions. I don't see any English language questions here. Can we request some English language questions from the audience?
Well, John, I want to talk about a point that you just raised that Jitendra talked about, which again has to do with where you have an integrity failure inside the company, which then results in a loss of quality and the inability of the firm to aspire to be a trusted advisor. This goes back to the importance of FIMS and the importance of a code of conduct, as Jitendra mentioned. If you have a code of conduct and senior leadership enforces the code of conduct and everybody in the company subscribes to the code of conduct, a lot of these challenges that Jitendra is bringing up that sometimes face junior or emerging leaders in a firm, they start to go away. Ideally, they're eliminated. But if you don't have a strong foundation for integrity in a code that defines what doing the right thing is in the firm, it opens up all kinds of challenges and it makes it very, very difficult for our industry to not only represent itself properly to our clients and to the public, but it makes it very difficult for us to do our jobs on a daily basis.
I think the key for integrity management and everything we'll be talking about this morning goes back to training. Training. That's why the effort by the company who organized this webinar, and we thank you, Mr. Tai, for your effort and your organization. And we think that that is the basis for moving forward. Training, and then training, and then training. And that goes back to one of Cosmin's last bold bullets in his presentation. What can FIDIC do to promote integrity management? To support your training, such as what we're doing today. Go back to FIDIC, go back to your member association, go back to the organization that represents the companies, but work hard in the training itself. Training is the basis for integrity management. And we cannot waste any time, any effort for moving forward. And we want to follow some of the mottos that we've been hearing this morning, that's the first way to go. If you want to move, if you've already started your integrity management system, go to FIDIC, get your books, train, 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 and continue building on them. So thank you again for your hospitality, Mr. Tai, and to the company for organizing this very well run with 100 plus attendees. I was very impressed with the number of people who are sitting here. I hope that the message was clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Do. Thank you.
So I think the question has been asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question has been asked, what should FIDIC be doing now to promote integrity management? And, you know, the Integrity Management Committee has worked very hard on providing some documents that can be used as a basis for training and basis for implementing integrity management systems. But I think now it's time for the Integrity Management Committee to make a transition to becoming missionaries, to explain to people why they should do this, why it is good business to work with integrity, and to explain to them some real life examples of companies that have successfully implementing these projects. So I'm hoping to see that in the new committee, we will have a good broad geographic representation. And the people who are on that committee will, I think, have a duty to explain and promote integrity management within their areas. So I'm very hopeful for this new approach of the Integrity Management Committee that this will happen. Because I think maybe we should stop writing documents and we should start explaining them. Through arrangements like this. This is a very good seminar and the kind of thing that we should do more.
And I would add, John, that the Future Leaders Committee is fundamental, is the key for FIDIC. So there's a big responsibility, not only in the FIDIC Future Leaders Committee, but in the Future Leaders Committee in each one of the member associations, such as the one represented by our friend from India. So I don't know if there is a Future Leaders group at the Vietnamese Association. If there is none, fund it, organize it.
Found them, exactly.
And you've got two excellent representatives on this panel in Kozman and Jitendra who are certainly available and willing to assist any of you in Vietnam and in the MA to set that up. I'll give you an example of how important these relationships are and how they can help not only to build your professional and personal connectivity, but also even to work in integrity. I was involved with the founding of the predecessor to the FLC that Kozman mentioned, which was the Young Professional Forum back in 2008. Actually, I'm sorry, back in 2005. And in the 15 years that I've been involved with FIDIC activities and the connections and the professional and personal colleagues that I've developed over the years, I've been exposed to a lot of different approaches and ideas and ways to understand how to not only conduct business, but also how some of these challenges that you come across can be addressed, like integrity management, some of the things that Jitendra and Kozman have brought up, how learning from my peer group in terms of the things that they've seen and the things that they've done successfully. And by allowing your emerging future leaders in the member association in Vietnam and in your companies to reach out into ASPAC or to reach out into FIDIC through the FLC, there are some great opportunities. John Ritchie and I are involved right now in the execution of the Future Leaders Committee training program. And we have 65 participants globally. many of them are from Asia. I think we have 20 from Taiwan, just as an example. So it's a really outstanding opportunity to get some exposure to things that will really give you some additional tools to help build your career and build your professionalism.
I'd like to add one point here. Like we were discussing about having a future leader group in Vietnam. In fact, in FIDIC Asia Pacific FLC, we are sending out invite by the end of this month to all the MAs to nominate the members for the executive committee of FLC. So this time we are focusing on those countries which right now don't have any member in this committee. So I can suggest that Vietnam MA can identify 1 or 2 bright young professionals and they can nominate them. And then we across ASPAC committee, we can help them or guide them in forming a future leader committee in the country. Thank you.
Jitendra, one more thing. We have all these necessary documents for them to prepare because we have all the skeleton for the documents for a new group. So contact us. TRONG has all our details and everything. Contact us and we can help you to build the future leaders of Vietnamese group.
Great. Thank you.
Arun, can you join and share your opinion and question?
It's really not a question, it's a compliment to the whole team for organizing this. It's very, very important nowadays. And especially in a country like India, we definitely need it. Thank you very much.
Do you have any question to the speaker in the panel, Arun?
Oh, thank you. No questions.
Yeah. From the audience, we have seen that Benno, one of the lecturer and mentor for the young professional, also joined this chat. Benno Nova, can you join and share some advice with us, Benno? I saw Benno here. Okay. From the audience and participant, we would like to invite you for a question or discussion, sharing your opinion or your situation, especially from within Pact3, PCC3, to the speaker now. In room A, someone can share your discussion? Meeting room A. Okay, we're looking for question and participant.
Well, if you have questions in Vietnamese, you could always translate them to English and send them to us, and we'll write them so it'll be more efficient.
Okay.
So while we're waiting for the questions, Jorge, let me pose a question to you. You've been involved in integrity management for quite some time, and as chairman of the committee for many, many years, what have you found to be the greatest challenge that you've seen just in the consulting community over the years?
I think, Richard, that the greatest challenge is the lack of recognition of an integrity management system on the client side. Clients don't understand or don't rely or are reluctant to give a favorable treatment to companies that are working hard, not only integrity, but also quality. So we have to work together, the companies, the associations, and the governments, and the banks, to have them make a recognition that, as you mentioned, Richard, there's this blacklist that is published in the World Bank of companies that have not behaving very well. We have been striving to have a white list of companies that have a system in place, that are already ready to go to the next step. And that has been probably extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah. Benno, can you unmute and join the discussion? Benno.
Yes, thank you for for your invitation. I must tell you that I only participated here because as one of the principals of the Future Leaders certificate program in FIDIC, I wanted to assure the group, first of all, that integrity management is a subject of, we have about 6 main subjects. Integrity management is one of the 6. And you have with you today the 2 principal lecturers in this process, in this program, John and Richard, who have just completed last week their presentation. It was a 2-hour session, 90 minutes of, well, shall we say, presentation and half an hour of questions. So we had a lot of questions. And therefore, we know that the young professionals are very interested and certainly are open to this subject. And I'm certainly intrigued by the fact that a firm such as yours has organized this very interesting seminar. That's all I can say at this point. I don't want to contribute as an amateur in integrity management while I have 2 professionals sitting here on the Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benno. Yeah. Okay. So let us speak in Vietnamese. Xin mời các anh chị và các bạn đặt câu hỏi cho các diễn giả.
One thing that would be interesting to hear from members of the audience, whether it be typed into the Zoom chat or a question posed to one of the interpreters for the panelists to answer, is what are some of the integrity challenges that the participants see in your course of doing business? Are you seeing similar challenges to what you know, the 5 of us have been talking about today, or are your challenges different? Can anyone provide some guidance on what you're seeing, and perhaps we can provide a response or some additional assistance?
Yeah. Maybe I can be the one of the answer, because the topic was similar to me. When I just graduated from the university and joined PhD for some project supervision, then we have a very low salary, and then every week the contractor will ready to support the young consultant engineer with some support that's even equal to the monthly salary for each weekly. So without some guidance or notice, the young engineer can okay, very good, some bonus out of the subject. We right there, we don't have such kind of code of conduct for within the company to advise and provide the guideline. So later on, learning about the professional ethics, then we can realize that such kind of thing is quite not a good way to do for a real consultant engineer. And now PCC already have a code of conduct for the engineer to follow in their business. Yeah, but with that, at that time, if we have this kind of sharing from under the FIDIC and of the panelists here, will be very helpful for the one who make the decision in the meeting or on the side. Yeah, that's it, my sharing.
And Trong, that's a very typical challenge that happens everywhere in the world on the construction site. You have the inspectors for the consulting firm who may be very junior, they may have low salary, they may have a lot of responsibility, and there may be pressure to look the other way or to not enforce the contract correctly. And that's just one simple example of, like you said, where a code of conduct protects the employee in the company because it tells him or her that it's okay to avoid taking a bribe. It's okay and correct to follow the contract and to enforce the contract, even if the contractor is trying to get you to do something else. So, and that's just one of many, many examples of things that I'm sure that there are people on this that are listening in as participants, or some of us that are speakers, that we've encountered those challenges, or we know people who have. It's a challenge. And again, by starting, I'm sorry, I'll let someone jump in.
Yeah, I'd like to add to this, in the same vein, Richard, two thoughts. The first is that, and you've mentioned this, it really depends on the leadership of the company to instill this notion of integrity management, and then the process of training. Now, I have an observation on the leadership, and I don't know quite how to solve that. And I don't know how many very senior people we have on this meeting, but you know, we find that when we have seminars on this subject, some of the senior people don't actually want to register because they feel if they register, they're admitting that they need to learn something about the subject. It's a really strange circular motion, circular reasoning, but that does happen. And I wonder how we can solve that.
Well, one idea is, again, just goes back to the notion of training itself, Benno. If you have a company policy and program that you have continuing education and continuing training, and as part of your continuing education as a professional is that you have to attend some type of integrity management training, just like you do, say, in certain countries to maintain your professional credentials, then everybody is able to go and attend the training regardless of their seniority, because it's mandatory.
Open your microphone.
To add? Yeah, we all get frustrated. I think anybody who has been trying to advocate in this area, that particularly senior people tend to say, well, I don't have anything more to learn. So here's where the young professionals or the future leaders come in. I think when you've got people who have recently joined the firm, who have received some education in this subject and are given questions that they can ask, and those questions really strike at the heart of whether this firm is determined to be a good firm or not a good firm, they can make a difference by asking those questions. And so I really feel that the Future Leaders program that FIDIC has is a way to improve the uptake of integrity management as an important topic. Perhaps Jitendra and others could talk about that.
Excuse me, there is one question on the chat room. I would like to translate. The question going to apply FIMS and ISO 37001. Very difficult in the environment where all of the consulting firm have to use the soft skill to find a job, to find a work. So if you apply ISO 37001, can push you out of the business, push you out of the game. You cannot find enough job for your company to survive. How to both grow up and nurture the integrity within your company, but still can survive within the business? That is a question raised by one participant.
And I mean, that that question strikes at the heart of why the FIDIC integrity management system was developed in the first place. It's when we ran the pilot program, this was an issue that several of the companies had to deal with. They, you know, if everybody in the industry is acting in a corrupt manner or is taking bribes, if you decide not to take bribes, you might go out of business. In Jorge, I remember one particular firm, the members of that company kept bringing this up and they said, we don't know what to do. And it was a big challenge for that particular firm because of the environment in which they had to operate. And it came down to a decision that needed to be made by the senior leadership of the company as to how did they want to do your job. Because at the end of the day, if you get into a corrupt relationship with a client or with a supplier, with somebody else, it is a big risk to you because, you know, not only that you might get caught, but it also results in your quality being degraded. It results in you being exposed to whatever the client may want you to do, or the person that is creating the corrupt activity may want you to do. And it results in some ways in a loss of your ability to chart your company's course because you are now beholden to somebody because of a corrupt relationship. It's very, very challenging to set up a code of conduct or to aspire to a zero tolerance program when you're not used to doing that. It's like any new skill. And it takes time and it takes a team. One person can't do it alone. You cannot say, all right, you are the integrity officer, make the rest of the company follow it. That will fail. The leadership of the company has to say, this is really important. We want everyone to do this. And they work with the rest of the company to build that code. And they say, you are going to follow this. And if you can't follow this code, then you need to find another place to work because this is how we work here. And I think I remember, Arun, you had made a comment in the chat about people who come into a company who may not have a background in integrity, and that this represents a risk because they're, you know, the company may have a strong code of conduct, and now suddenly a new member of the company has to agree to follow it. But if you have a zero tolerance policy, internal and external, then you're bringing, you can bring the right people into the firm. And if somebody is not able to agree to that code, then they really shouldn't be working in your company.
Richard, may I respond?
Please.
What you're saying is absolutely right. You know, many times when you are bringing in a person, you really do not know 100% of his background or his beliefs or her beliefs, whatever it may be. And it's only when the person is in the organization that you discover certain things. And it's at that point of time that the management has to take a decision and abide by it. Sometimes it's a hard decision, but it has to be taken. There is no choice. If you really want to say that you follow the code of conduct as far as business ethics are concerned.
Yeah. And,
so I'm fully with you.
The question from the audience relates to a company introducing a new integrity management system where there has not been anything before. There will be people in the company that will not accept it or may have difficulty accepting it. And people may feel that it will cause the company to fail. But as Richard says, you have to persist with it, and it has to come from the top. It has to be part of the business strategy of the company that they want to aspire to be a better company, one that commands the respect of clients because of what they do and how they do it. So it's difficult to start one up, and it's difficult to maintain it. As Arun says, if you get somebody coming into the company that is not familiar and perhaps has a great reputation for building new business, you better watch how that person goes about getting new business.
I have received two questions. One is for Jitendra. To this slide, Jitendra. In this slide, the audience asked us how you deal with the pressure from the unethical superior or sustenance. And second one, how you deal with pressure to meet targets. We understand you also work in data engineering, also something related to PCC3 in the power industry. So can you share with us, have you ever witnessed and how to deal with this? And the second question is going to one of the panel is there any advice regarding the FIDIC white book? Is it application will bring the ethical integrity more to the audience, to the participant? The question would be whether we can we will apply FIDIC white book, we will bring better integrity for the consultant or not. That is the second question. So, Jitendra, can you go first, please?
Yeah. So the first question is related to pressure from unethical superiors. And this is the point exactly we were discussing. And in the chat box itself, we see that Mr. Mal has written that mostly this comes when you have a superior senior person who is coming from outside with different values and beliefs. And then he finds that whatever you are doing is not going to help the organization. So he insists on some activities to you. Now, as a person, like a young professional facing this problem, it is very hard thing, very challenging. He has to decide on two factors. First, he should look on the overall values of the company and whether the senior leaders, the top management is walking the talk or not. If he's assured that my top management is going to support me, if I raise my voice and say that I cannot fulfill this requirement, he should make a voice. And if, in my opinion, if he finds that even top management may not support me, they may ask to fulfill the requirements posed by my seniors, then he should decision maybe to continue with the organization in long run or not. But I'll not advise to immediately revolt and leave the job and then face problem in the family. But he has to decide whether to continue in the longer run or not. My second question was related to meeting the targets. For this, I was giving my suggestions like 5-point suggestion. And one of the point was plan and documentation. You will have to foresee the different phases of the project and you have to plan in a way that you don't come in a situation where everyone is insisting on you to compromise with the situation and the quality because you need to expedite the project and meet the deadlines. So like the example I had taken during my talk is about inferior quality of materials are there lying on the site. You are insisting contractor to remove that. So you should foresee that if it is not happening today, after some time, I'll have to manage and allow that to use. So you should take the appropriate measures, write to the contractor, copy to the client, copy to the management. It's not happening. And also plan your activities in a way that, okay, there is some margin like we do in part in CPM. So to a certain extent, you will avoid the situations where you have to compromise and you will be able to meet the targets. These are my points. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jitendra. So now going to the second question, we would like to listen to the panelists regarding FIDIC white book, whether application of FIDIC white book will have more chance to bring the integrity and trust between the client and the consultant.
The latest edition of the white
Perhaps I
book.
could start.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jorge.
Oh, I was just going to mention that the latest edition of the white book has been closing the gap between quality and integrity. We're not pleased yet with the product that we have. We hope that in the future editions, the gap between integrity and management gets closer. But you're right. We need to put more teeth in the FIDIC contracts suite of books so that integrity management becomes a fundamental part. And I think it was Richard who said that integrity and quality is the same. You cannot talk about quality and without talking integrity. John.
The White Book has some features in it on integrity, but they're not perfect by any means. I agree with Jorge. There is a mention of the consulting firm who has a White Book agreement should have an integrity management system, but it's not enforceable. And actually, there's another feature in the White Book which is very difficult for the consulting firm. And that is a provision that allows the client to terminate the agreement without notice if he suspects corruption on the part of the consultant. Well, you can imagine what a big hammer that puts in the hands of the client. If the client may suspect or may not suspect, but he accuses the consultant of corruption, then he has an ability to extort money out of the consultant by threatening to cancel the contract. So some further thought is needed on the White Book, I'm afraid, before it becomes useful in ensuring integrity.
I agree.
Anyone else want to contribute or raise a question? We already reached 11.5. So looking for only one question left, and then we can go into close. Only one question, please. Anyone have a question? If no question, more question from the audience, I would like to invite Mr. TRrodC, Factory President, to make the final closing remark. Time.
Once again, I would like to express my gratitude for FIDIC Integrity Management Committee and FIDIC Future Leader Committee. You have a good idea sharing with us today, and we hope that we, PECC number 3, in the future have a lot of opportunity to cooperate you, and you will help us to for building trustworthy culture within our company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining with us today. Ross, John, Jitendra, Kotmin, and Richard. Thank you very much on the speaker and the panelists for today's speaking.
Thank you also.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cảm ơn mọi người.